What we call it the Faith Network, Faith Fellowship Network, is really a group of lay leaders from the various congregations in our community. And our goal is basically to promote understanding and cooperation among the congregations. The whole idea is that there are certain things that can be done in the community by many churches working together that no one church can do all by itself. We got started about a year ago doing some activities called community conversations. And what we did was we talked to area leaders, governmental leaders, church leaders, police officers and so forth, as well as citizens on the street of Tamaqua. And we started to get their aspirations, what they'd like to see in the community. And we took all that information and kind of boiled it down into a couple themes. And one of the main themes that we found was that people have a great deal of concern about family issues. And who better to address family issues than churches? Well, we have about 14 congregations in the Tamaqua area, and just about all of those congregations have been involved in one way or another in our organization. It's all based on the Tamaqua Ministerial Association. That's a group of ministers that get together every month and try to do things together, various worship services. They handle baccalaureate service and things like that. We've been actually operative since, I'd say like October 2011. Our kickoff activity was really an Advent breakfast where we had 150 people representing 11 of the 14 congregations come together right at the beginning of the Christmas season to celebrate Advent, but also to celebrate this concept of community. And then we've done several projects since then. One of our favorites was called Bellow the Ball, where we collected gently used gowns that girls have used for proms and so forth, and we gave them away free. People donated about 300 gowns to us, and we gave out over 200 to many times young people who would not be able to go to the prom if they didn't have these free gowns and so forth. It was a pretty good project for us to do. We've also done some work with Schuylkill Women in Crisis, doing some workshops for church leaders on how to identify abuse and what to do when someone comes to you and says they've been abused. Where do you go from there? Many church leaders are not properly trained in handling that information. We have a current project going on where we're collecting gently used school uniforms. And you know, here in Tamaqua we have a uniform policy, and we're doing the same thing there, helping out families that have maybe lots of kids and just can't afford to get all the clothing they need for school. We just had a really nice 4th of July food project. Most food projects take place in the fall around Thanksgiving and Christmas, and sometimes we forget about those in need in the summertime. So we did a 4th of July picnic food distribution project, and again, many congregations in Tamaqua participated in that. So those are the types of things we do. I see a lot of work that can be done in our community on a neighborhood by neighborhood basis, rather than a whole community basis. And again, the churches are perfectly situated to deal with that because they're in the various neighborhoods of our community. So if we look at developing the whole concept of neighborhoods, kind of like what's been going on in the South Ward, where a neighborhood has taken a great deal of pride in itself and done some interesting things, we need to spread that concept to some of the other neighborhoods. And I think the churches could be instrumental in doing something like that.
The acronym is TAFN. It was started by George Taylor as the primary person who initiated it. And what it stands for is Tamaqua Area Faith Fellowship Network. It's an ecumenical organization of all of the community, including the churches. But some of the things that you've seen TAFN do would be the school supplies and school uniform drive for people to be able to come and get school uniforms. They also did a prom gown drive where they took dresses and whatnot and made them available to everyone. They did a 4th of July fundraiser for food donations where they fed needy families. And I mean, it just goes on and on from there. Tamaqua at one time, and I guess for lack of a better term, we'll call it back in the heyday, was a bigger town. But it's always been a close town. And people have known each other, it's a close-knit community. And one of the problems is the community ages. People don't get out as often. And they don't get to join in efforts in a community-wide basis as much as we would like them to. So the objective of TAFN is to get them to be able to do that, to be able to renew those old friendships, to be able to reach out in community spirit to each other and Christian fellowship to each other, and bring to the community a higher level of not only being involved with the community, but a higher level of being associated with the community. I don't think the community right now knows as much about TAFN as they will in a year or 2 years. I think as we get more and more involved with the community, they'll see more and more what it's all about, and there'll be more involvement.
TAFN has really completed a link that was missing within our community. They have really burst open the doors of communication between the churches and the community in helping to advertise events and communicate opportunities and needs between the community and the church, and vice versa. Well, I think there has been somewhat of a separation between the church and the community, and it appears that the work of TAFN has been able to break down some of that barrier and cause a more synergy between the Tamaqua organizations and the churches, and I believe it is will improve a lot of areas of quality of life and those folks who live here in Tamaqua. A lot of our churches are small in that we can't do a lot of things, but together we can do a lot more.